September 1998. A company called Diamond Multimedia releases something called the RIAA PMP300. It's the first MP3 player anyone's actually heard of. It holds a grand total of 10 songs, and within weeks, the Recording Industry Association of America is in federal court trying to get it banned entirely, arguing it's basically a piracy machine with a headphone jack. The RIAA loses. The RIAA survives and sells 200,000 units, which for a brand new product category in 1998 is pretty impressive. So the MP3 player already existed. It had a legal precedent, a working business model, actual paying customers. Why does basically nobody remember the RIAA while everyone remembers the iPod? Apple took a product category with all the cultural cachet of a graphing calculator and somehow turned it into a costume, a class signifier, a dating ritual, an entire subculture, and eventually its own crime wave. October 2001. Apple's actually late to this party. Creatives got the Nomad, Diamond still kicking around, and there's a whole ecosystem of beige and black bricks holding a handful of songs on tiny spinning hard drives, mostly designed by engineers who seemed to genuinely believe more buttons was a design philosophy rather than a cry for help. The first iPod only works with Macs, meaning it's compatible with roughly 3% of computers on the planet at the time. It costs $400, an absolutely insane price for a gadget when that's approaching a month's rent for plenty of people. One infamous contemporary forum post captures the mood perfectly. $400? No wireless? Less space than a Nomad? Lame. The iPod is white in a market full of black consumer hardware, and it has a scroll wheel you spin with one thumb, a genuinely novel interaction that makes every competitor's directional pad mashing interface feel instantly ancient by comparison. That's basically the entire early technological edge. It doesn't hold more songs, it doesn't sound better, it just doesn't feel like garbage in your hand. The earbuds bundled with it are white for an almost insultingly boring reason. The iPod itself is white, so the cable matches. Nobody sat in a Cupertino conference room plotting how two pieces of wire would define a generation's status anxiety. They were color matching. Every competing device had spent years shipping with the same anonymous black earbuds. Walkman, Discman, Nomad, RIAA, all of them. Black cords hanging out of someone's ears communicated absolutely nothing. Apple's white cords did. You didn't need to see the actual device tucked into someone's pocket. Two thin white lines running up to a pair of ears told you this person had spent $400 on an MP3 player. This person had an iPod. They became recognizable enough to create an actual documented crime problem. By 2005, New York police were holding press conferences about it. Reported iPod thefts on the subway jumped from essentially 0 one year to 50 the next, and the NYPD directly credited part of a 20% spike in subway robberies to young people targeting other young people wearing the telltale white headphones. Cops were telling people with total sincerity that one of the best anti-theft measures wasn't a case or an alarm, it was swapping the white earbuds for ugly black ones, so muggers couldn't identify you as a target from across the platform. A criminologist studying the phenomenon later compared it to the effect Air Jordans and North Face jackets had a decade earlier. The function of the object mattered less than what owning it signaled, especially among young people who wanted the status symbol and couldn't necessarily afford one themselves. October 2003. Apple wants the iPod to break past the Mac-owning faithful, so their ad agency Chiat Day pitches something genuinely strange for the time. No real people at all. Anonymous black silhouettes dancing against blinding solid-colored backgrounds, hot pink, acid green, electric blue, holding glowing white iPods with those unmistakable white cords whipping around. Steve Jobs reportedly hates the concept at first. It doesn't explain what the product actually does. The Chiat Day team fights to keep the idea alive and eventually bolts on 1,000 songs in your pocket to give Jobs something concrete to anchor all that abstraction to. He greenlights it. He would later naturally claim the campaign was essentially his idea from the start, which, sure, Steve. Using silhouettes also solves a problem baked into most product advertising. Nobody watching actually looks like the person selling the product to them. A silhouette has no face, no specific body type. No race. There's almost nothing stopping someone watching from mentally inserting themselves into the frame. The ad isn't asking you to buy what some cool person has. The cool person is basically an empty slot. Buy the object and imagine yourself in it. Once the silhouette campaign proves the iPod can sell status as effectively a storage capacity. Actual celebrities pile on too. When Jobs unveils iTunes for Windows in October 2003, Mick Jagger, Bono, and Dr. Dre appear in on-screen cameos publicly endorsing a piece of consumer hardware. Bono goes further and partners with Apple on a U2 special edition iPod, complete with the band's signatures laser engraved onto the back. Then Apple gets silly with it. October 2004, at a special music event where Jobs also unveils the iPod Photo, he pauses the presentation to announce with a completely straight face a revolutionary new product for your iPod. It's socks. Knitted cotton socks in 6 vibrant colors that your iPod slides into like a tiny fashionable pet you're dressing for winter. The audience laughs, unsure whether this is a joke. Apple sells iPod socks for $29 a 6-pack for the next 8 years, quietly discontinuing them in 2012. People buy them as Christmas gifts. Vintage sets still trade online for absurd prices. Once the company can sell novelty knitwear for your MP3 player on a markup and people genuinely want it, you're dealing with something other than ordinary consumer electronics. By the mid-2000s, the iPod has crossed fully into fashion territory in ways nobody would have predicted from a Diamond RIAA. It gets photographed in fashion magazines next to handbags and sunglasses. Luxury design houses make official leather cases for it. Apple releases the iPod mini in 5 candy colors: pink, blue, green, gold, silver. Market research had revealed something the tech industry had apparently never thought worth investigating before. Teenage girls also bought consumer electronics, and some of them wanted a device that matched their outfit. People clock your color choice, your generation of iPod, whether you bothered getting something engraved on the back, the same way that clocks someone's sneakers or handbag on the street. And of course, your sock. Apple's free laser engraving service becomes its own strange little cultural ritual. People etch song lyrics, inside jokes, breakup dates, and entire relationship histories onto the back of a piece of consumer hardware. It's the same impulse that used to carve initials into a tree, except now it ships from a warehouse. Gym culture absorbs it almost immediately. Nike Plus iPod launches in 2006, using a sensor in your shoe to send running data to your iPod, turning jogging into something you can track, quantify, and brag about inside iTunes. It's an unglamorous ancestor of the fitness tracker and smartwatch. Dorm rooms absorb it too. The little white dock speaker becomes default bedroom furniture, doing the job a proper stereo system used to do, while sitting conspicuously enough on a desk for anyone walking past your open door to notice. And mixtape culture changes with it. "Here's a playlist I made you" can now mean handing someone your entire iPod and trusting them with your entire music identity for an evening. There's something weirdly intimate about that. You're not giving them 12 songs on a burned CD, you're giving them the library. Even the backlash becomes its own culture. Mid-2000s internet forums are littered with people complaining, with genuine irritation, about iPod culture. Meanwhile, everyone was trying to kill it. Sony launched a hard disk Walkman specifically built to take the iPod down, backed by its own competing music store. Microsoft tried Portable Media Center, then eventually built the Zune outright. Creative CEO publicly declared in November 2004 that his company was declaring war on the iPod. SanDisk ran an entire "I don't" campaign as a middle finger to Apple's branding. Samsung predicted it would overtake Apple by 2007. None of it worked. By then, Apple had spent years turning white cords into a status symbol, dancing silhouettes into an aspirational identity, and knitted socks into a punchline people actually paid money for. You cannot outspec a costume. The Zune became such a notorious commercial failure that having a Zune survived for years as comedy shorthand for owning the thing nobody wanted when they could have had the cool one. Apple's reward for completely dominating portable music was eventually having to confront a fairly dangerous idea. The thing everyone already carried around for music could probably do a lot more than play music. That idea becomes the iPhone. Steve Jobs introduces it in January 2007 as, among other things, a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The first iPhone even ships with an iPod app sitting right there on the home screen next to phone and mail. Once the phone in your pocket can hold your entire library, stream basically infinite new music on demand, take photos, browse the internet, and do everything else a rectangle of glass can plausibly be asked to do, there isn't much cultural territory left for a standalone MP3 player. By 2014, iPod sales had cratered by more than 50% year over year. Apple discontinued the last iPod in 2022. By then, its replacement had already been sitting in everyone's pocket for more than a decade. The iPod wasn't first, and for much of its commercial life, it wasn't objectively the best-spec'd option on paper. It had a scroll wheel that felt good under a thumb, white cords that turned every owner into an unpaid advertisement, a silhouette campaign that barely needed to show the product, an engraving service people turned into a diary, a sock people bought because apparently once your MP3 player becomes fashionable enough, even hosiery is merchandise. And somewhere along the way, it helped turn a music collection from a shelf in your bedroom into invisible data you carried everywhere. Then Apple folded the whole idea into the iPhone. Eventually, everything became an iPod. Now everybody carries a descendant of that rectangle all day, every day, and nobody thinks twice about it. If two accidentally white wires becoming a class signifier, a crime statistic, a novelty sock, and eventually part of the blueprint for the iPhone makes you want to dig your old iPod Nano out of a drawer, subscribe. This channel will have plenty more stories about things that got too big for their own good. And like the video for the Diamond RIAA PMP300, which started this entire chain of events and got approximately none of the cultural credit for it.